All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our one video per weekday. We got a new guest on the channel today. New guest alert, Ron Stewart. Let's do this thing. All right, as I said, I am Liam Murphy. We have a new guest today, Ron Stewart. We're going to be ripping a puppy. But before we get into all that, Ron, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I appreciate you having me on. I will say I hate to do this because I should have brought it up pre-show. I think you might be talking through your AirPods right now, instead of your mic. I'm not sure if that's on purpose.
Let's check right here. Audio, you are 100% right. I don't know if I've been doing that on past videos. Let's see here. Let's try this. How am I sounding now? Am I sounding better?
Oh yeah, you sound a lot better now.
All right, Ron. Ron is actually a professional YouTuber. We're on the road to 2K, guys. Help me out. We're like 4 people away from 1,700 subscribers. Ron is a big boy in the YouTube streets. Got nearly north of 20,000 subscribers. We got the link to follow Ron on Twitter below in the YouTube description, so you can check that out. But Ron, how about before we jump into the draft today, something I like to ask my new guests is, how'd you first get into fantasy football? Tell us all about you.
Man, fantasy football. So I've always been into sports, man. I would say really how I found fantasy football is I always loved the Jets growing up. And I remember me and my buddies. I know you're a Patriots fan, so I know there's a little bit of beef there. But really, like
Patriots, come on now, Ron. Come on now.
We're Bills. Yeah. That's my bad. I know you're a Bills fan. I know you draft Gabe Davis on every single team.
Insulting me left and right, saying my mic game sucks. You're calling me. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, essentially, dude, we would it was just I wouldn't even call it degenerate. It was just like little kid stuff where we would hop on NFL.com and draft fantasy teams on there and play for free with 8 of my buddies. And we'd forget about it by week 6 or whatever. But that kind of started it. And then eventually, I mean, I know you're kind of a degenerate in these streets. I would be the guy in high school where I'm starting the March Madness pools in the locker room, trying to get everybody, okay, put your money in. I'm starting the fantasy football leagues in the locker room. Everybody, put their money in. Let's do it. So it really was kind of just a hustle. Was really just kind of a hustle that I had in high school. And my first fantasy team sucked. It was I drafted DeAndre Hopkins and Lamar Miller back to back the year that the Texans all sucked. So
let's set the scene. How old are you now?
Man, I'm 21 now.
You're 20, a young 21. I'm young 30 for
yeah.
And so when did you what year was this that you first played? Man. And how'd you get into it? Is this did your mom or dad introduce you?
I would
was it
say
more friends?
With football, it's a weird progression because I loved football because I was introduced to the Jets at a young age. I played football at a young age. And then I got obsessed with the NFL draft because we sucked so much. All I could look forward to was the NFL draft. So I can relate to the NFL draft. And then from there, I just started loving football. I would watch, I remember I would always watch the Talking Heads guys, probably middle school where I'm watching, Mike and Mike in the morning. Those guys were goats, Sure. I think they had a fantasy live show I would watch sometimes too after school. So it just kind of went from there to then becoming kind of a high school, asshole, trying to now get money in the mix, it's no longer me just loving the game. So then we're probably thinking I'm probably saying by freshman, sophomore year, I'm in a couple fantasy football leagues, hustling my buddies. And then it just got to a point where I'm very competitive and I sucked early on. Like I said, my first year, I was awful. And then I just kept getting better and better and wanting to beat everybody. And then it got to a point where now I have one high school league that's still alive, but the other one, they won't play with me anymore, which is pretty funny. But yeah, that's kind of how it kind of spun into this area.
And how about YouTube? Talk to us about YouTube. When did you get started on there? Is YouTube your full-time gig? Are you Are you a student? Are you learning a trade? What's the plan for Ron? Tell us all about that.
It's I'll say too, when I started to shift from, playing fantasy for fun and then wanting to kind of get into the content side, I was listening to shout out Player Profiler. I think that they have like a great site over there. I was listening to their Dynasty podcast, and that kind of got me into like the sicko side of things, where I'm in like Dynasty leagues. Like we're talking like 2018. I'm like a junior in high school playing with like random Reddit guys online and stuff. And it's just been something I've always wanted to do. Like I still have an email where I reached out to the guy who runs Player Profiler and was like, "Hey man, I'm a junior in high school. I really don't have a ton of like I have nothing but hours to give, and I don't have much
Yeah, a
experience.
lot of
Like, I
free
would love
time.
to." Exactly. I was like, "Hey man, I would love to be in any kind of role." And then I kind of chickened out. I got like a response back. And I didn't say anything. And then essentially what happened for me, which was and it's weird because I look back on the pandemic or the lockdown like kind of fondly, even though I know it was like a pretty brutal tragedy for everybody. But I was a freshman in community college in 2020, and then as soon as it hit, I was like, I have all this free time. Let's start writing articles. So I started writing articles for Player Profiler, and then I kind of realized like I love their site, I love articles and stuff, but it's like, man, like if you want to start in the fantasy space, like if you do it strictly through pen and paper, like good luck, like you have to be a 1 in a million writer to just like start, whether it's a Substack or at a site. So I started making videos, man, and they honest to God, I probably have like 600 plus videos now. The first 200 are pretty rough to get through, man. But I was making them. This is, pandemic. I'm making them in my room. I'm literally like almost like I'm filming it through the back of my iPhone, in my basement at my old house, just like almost like whispering, because I don't want like my mom or anything to hear me. And it was
Yeah.
just so bad. But yeah, I kept at it, man. Like there were definitely times where I was like, dude, like this, I just don't think this is gonna work out. One of the videos that actually like kind of kept things going for me was after my first season or off season of doing it. And by the way, I was like promoting these videos because like early on you're not getting put into the algorithm either. So I'm out there like boots on the ground, throwing links in subreddits. I'm banned from r/fantasy football because I'm throwing videos in there and saying, "Hey guys, please check these out." Getting zero upvotes on all of them. But yeah, just kind of like kept at it, kept doing it, and then eventually it has, I am at a point now where like this is my full time thing. I would say like YouTube plus like kind of what I do on Patreon and stuff. Plus just like winnings from fantasy in general. So yeah, I do all right, but I'm also lucky that I don't have I don't have any crazy expenses as a 21-year-old. So I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I mean, you took advantage of the opportunity where, I mean, what you're doing is like you kind of have to start that either young or when you have time, or if you win a contest, something that helps you out with that. And so yeah, I mean, I just find that stuff fascinating because I mean, honestly, I've been pretty half-assed at YouTube. I would like mine to grow so that I could start like, earning an income from it. But I was fortunate where right away I knew I would have a bit of an audience. But I'm clearly like, I'm not doing 10-minute short form videos, which is clearly like far more GTO for growth than like 99% of my content are 1 hour plus live streams, which the
Yeah.
algorithm does not like, nor do consumers really like. A lot of my content's for really hardcore grinders, just like me doing a draft. So what was like the big breakthrough that you felt like? Was it like a video, or was it just doing each day? Like was it like getting to 1,000 subscribers, or like talk us through that, because I think it's cool to hear people's journeys, and I'm sure you would not have imagined like when you began like 20,000 subscribers, which like it's not huge, but it is pretty big for fantasy football in the space. Like one of the biggest is probably like 150K. So
Yeah.
like and like it's reasonable with YouTube. Who knows? Like the algorithm picks you up. You could be there in 2 years. Like it snowballs.
Yeah, it's crazy. I probably like it's pretty funny, man. I'm lucky that I started so young because I could set the bar pretty low. Like I remember telling I had a buddy who is super artistic, man. Like he doesn't help as much anymore because he's got his own stuff with college and things. But over the pandemic, he would help me like edit everything and do cool stuff. I remember talking with him. I was like, dude. So I went to community college. I was like, dude, like if I hit 1,000 subscribers, like I'm not going to 4-year university, dude. Like this is it. So so that's what it was early on, and it was just it as much as it was like a passion thing, it was very much like I'm seeing what other guys on YouTube are doing. I think I can do as good, if not better than them. But yeah, it was just kind of like chipping at it. And then you do get like breakthroughs here and there. Like I remember there was a time, dude, where I was like, man, like this might just not be it. Like I think that I might just be done here. And then Robert Saleh gets signed by the Jets, and I make a not even a fantasy football related video, and I just talk through what I felt about Robert Saleh and what I felt. I did like a Jets mock draft based on like him getting signed there, and I mean, like I wouldn't call it blow up, but like 5,000 views when you're like not even at 1,000 subs on like just like a 20-minute video is enough fuel in the tank to carry you forward. And really, what it's been for me, I think the biggest thing, because I probably do like a weekly stream as well, here and there. And streams are tough to grow, but I do love streams just to connect with the audience. You can just have a one-on-one talk with the guys who watch your videos and love what you do. But the biggest thing for me has been like, man, if you look like, I would say early August through early September, dude, like you can like last year, I remember I was probably under 10,000 subs last year in like August. And then just like sort of you can like, and I don't even think that that's one of the crazier, like catapults out there. Like there's some guys who have done massive growth from that, like I would say from like preseason week 1 through NFL kickoff. If you play your cards right, like you can really like that is the window to really maximize growth. From what I've seen. So it's been getting a couple hits early on to the point that kind of carries your motivation forward. And then once that summer hits, it's stop messing around. I literally like spreadsheet plan videos, what day, what's going up, and then just trying to maximize that window.
Yeah, you worked hard at it. And I liked a couple of things you said there. One is connecting with the audience part. That's why I'm trying to do a lot of my guest streams as puppies. It just makes it more affordable for people who want to draft with you. If they, not everyone's maxing Best Ball Mania 4 or whatnot. And then your video that blew up for you, the Robert Saleh video, touches on the idea that life is a lot of luck that people don't even realize. And what I mean by that for that specifically is like you are a Jets fan, one of the biggest, and that was probably like a passionate video for you. It's how you felt. It was the team you knew. And that video probably took off because guess what? The Jets are one of the biggest media market teams. Like I look at my own YouTube analytics, a ton of people from New York watch my shit. So like if I throw on a Giants or Jets player, more so the Jets, I think, on like a thumbnail, I think those videos get a little bit more clicks. So like the luck is you grew up in New York, you're a Jets fan, you made this passionate video, and it's like you just don't realize the factor that luck has in people's lives, especially people who usually like survive something and make it. Like you see this all the time in gambling, like survivorship bias. Like the best person at best ball or the best person at poker very easily could have gone broke or something. Like the best person at YouTube and maybe had real life responsibilities and had to stop, like all those things. So I like to hear all that, Ron. That's awesome. Don't want to spend all your time today, though, interviewing you. We'll jump into the draft here as well. And while we're doing that, can you tell the audience your relationship to best ball? When did you start playing it? How much do you play? Do you play on multiple sites? Different things like that.
I think my first introduction to it was, I want to say they used to have, it was like it was like Draft or something. I think it was draft.com. Maybe it might have been what Underdog used to be. But I know that was pretty big. Like I remember Nick Golano was like one of the OGs in terms of kind of the YouTube like 10-minute short form game. I remember he was pushing it. It might have been, I don't think it was Drafters. I do think it was Draft, but it was just seeing it on YouTube, seeing it around, and it was just the idea of not having to manage these teams and being able to put money down and have kind of like an accurate way to mock draft in the offseason, just so I could sort of prepare for managed leagues. And I've just kind of grown to love it, like just through honestly just like watching. I think Pete has done a great job kind of growing the game. And then I loved it. I did it my first year, and then this is like probably pre 5,000 subs. Like I'm hitting up Underdog. I'm like, hey man, like I'm gonna use your guys' site anyways. Like please, like let me get a sponsorship. Let me get anything. And they had me on. We collaborate now. And now I'm on underdog. I'm in these streets, dude. I have to say I've only ripped 2 puppies at this point. I've been off underdog for the last like 2 weeks just because I was in slow draft hell
Oh god.
with the big board, dude. I literally had 100 plus slow drafts going at once, and I didn't know that they were going to short the timers to like 60 minutes because like they needed to get them all done before the NFL draft. So I was in a tough
Let's
spot.
pause real quick and get your. I want a heavily influenced Ron draft here. So, do you want to go Chase? Do you want to go someone else at the 3 before we get back to your slow draft?
Let's just go Chase here. I'll go Chase.
I love
here.
it. You know what's not to like. All right, back to your story. Sorry for the interruption.
No, it's completely fine. But yeah, just got into a couple years ago. Find myself playing more and more every single year. And last year I maxed out BBM. Didn't have as much success as you've had with it. But yeah, I'm in these streets. You know, I got myself a little red badge on the Ron Stewart profile.
Oh, okay. We got a grinder.
I got a ring.
Grinder
Actually,
alert.
Here's the thing. Shout out to your Bills, man. I have a ring on me, and it wasn't from a huge contest. It was from like a one of those contests where it's just that day of divisional round games, but it was the Gabe Davis, like 4 touchdown game. I had like him, and I thought the team was dead for the entire time. I was like, dude, like I gotta stop putting $20 on these single game things. I'm not a DFS guy. Like this isn't me. Like I can't keep burning money like this. And then Gabe Davis goes crazy, and I end up. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was like first place $2,000. I think on like I don't know, it might have been like a $5 to $20 entry. Got the ring in my pocket. Shout out Gabe Davis. Maybe I'll get a tattoo for him or something. Just ode to Gabe.
So you are a grinder. What's your have you been grinding out this week 17 schedule? It's seeming like we're getting Jets Bills to kick off for Monday Night Football on September 11th, which of course is a tragic day, but also allegedly Aaron Rodgers is a 9/11 truther. So who knows what's going to be going on while people are crying? Is he going to like grab the mic and be like, actually? I don't know. I just thought that was some subtle trolling from the NFL. But how are you feeling about the Jets this year? Do you guys think you are better than the Dolphins? Do you think you're better than the Bills? Do you think, it's hard for me to think through how the Jets and Dolphins are going to finish. Obviously, I think Buffalo's better based on quarterback. Roster-wise, though, the Jets have if you're trying to build a dynasty team and like that's the Jets. They got a lot of good young pieces. We don't know with Aaron Rodgers. We think he's just gonna be same old Aaron, but he kind of sucked for stretches last year, low key. Hard to know if he was just kind of like protecting himself, being like this team sucks. But how are you feeling about the Jets this year?
It's so tough, man, because I got to walk the line of loser talk, because there is a part of me that's like, man, we haven't been to the playoffs in forever. Like, there is a part of me that's just like, dude, we got Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's a win. Like, I'm stoked that we have.
I'm
Aaron
excited
Rodgers.
as a Bills fan. Like, I like that he's on the Jets.
I'm excited for it. Like, we haven't had a good quarterback in forever, and Aaron Rodgers is amazing. The good thing about Aaron Rodgers, though, is even if he's not at like an MVP level, his touchdown rate and interception rate, like he doesn't throw a lot of picks. Like he's throwing touchdowns on like he was like a 20 plus point per game quarterback the other year on like less than 600 pass attempts. So he's very efficient. I think that he'll still be efficient. I don't know if he's has 40 plus touchdowns MVP in his bag. The only thing I'm worried about, defenses are shaky year to year, man. I know we have a lot of talent. I love Sauce. I love all the fellas, but like we've seen, the Jalen Ramsey Jaguars defense kind of fall apart after literally 1 year. So kind of holding my breath that just everything kind of sticks. But overall optimistic. I would say, I can give a lean to the Bills up top. I think that we're probably right neck and neck with the Dolphins. I do give probably an edge to McDaniels in terms of like coaching and scheming. He's very creative. But yeah, I'd say overall positive.
Let's pause real quick, and I'll ask you some other boots on the ground takes. We could go Hurts. We could go someone like Tony Pollard, a wide out.
What are your thoughts on going Higgins and Chase next to each other?
I'm fine with that. I think that is a good way to build in leverage to your team for playoff week purposes. We do not need Joe Burrow with the stack. The quarterback is the least important part of the stack, but and taking 2 teammates, even without a bring back, I mean, we do know that the Bengals are playing the Chiefs week 17.
That's fun.
Obviously, appealing. That was the year I won Best Ball Mania 2 as well. But uh, we've technically game stacked that game, even if we don't have a Chief. We're just saying that the Bengals are going to beat the shit out of the Chiefs. Seems reasonable in the past game, or score a lot of points at least. So let's get your pick here. I think all of what you said makes sense about the Jets, especially the part about defense, where that's why I'm such a proponent. What do you want? What do you want to do here with this
I
pick?
kind of love Ramondre here, man. I love
Let's go.
Ramondre. Yeah, let's go Ramondre.
Yeah, he's a guy I take a lot here. It's usually between Ramondre or Jacobs for me.
So shout out this guy with
And
a Tiggle Bitties username, dude. What? They just let
where
anything
oh,
on Underdog.
yeah, I did a YouTube short yesterday where I wasn't reading the username, and this guy in my draft named Thomas Buttmunch69 he was like on auto draft and like drafting all the quarterbacks, and so like I was trying to like make a point about how when that's happening you need to adjust, and then I read the name, I'm like, for the audio listeners, I'm not calling him that. That is, whatever. But anyway, so yeah, that's why I'm a big proponent on teams building through offense. It's why I'm real excited that the Bills invested in their offense in the draft, 2 guards, a wideout, a first round tight end. I think that, like investing in the defense, which the Bills did historically, just kind of being like, Josh Allen's good enough. Let him figure out the battle line. That's just dumb to me. Like, you have an elite quarterback, surround him with weapons. Offense is what wins. You can't stop elite offenses, even with a good defense.
Yeah, exactly. The Eagles, they didn't really stop the Chiefs much at all in the Super Bowl. I mean, you could say the turf or whatever, but I mean, they're supposed to have this amazing defense and nothing really happened. I mean, I
No,
love
it's
Sauce.
just it's too
Sauce
hard.
is amazing. Sauce is amazing, but also he's
I think he's the best corner
everywhere.
in the NFL. I think he is the best. He is the one guy who's a shutdown guy to me. But who knows? That gets
Exactly.
hard. So this is a question I wanted to ask you. Any inside info on Breece's recovery? Ron actually texted me before we got here. He said, I'm at the Jets facility. I'll have the inside scoop on Breece. I'm pretty sure Ron is directly plugged into the Jets organization. So I want you to not only tell us about Breece, but also, I mean, the Jets is a complicated running back room where it's like, who is the 2? Who is the 3? There's Zonathan Knight. There's Michael Carter. There is Izzy, the 5th round rookie. How do you feel about Breece? How do you feel about who is the 2, who is the 3 in the running back room?
Yeah, so this morning, I mean, I was walking Breece through his physical therapy, and I was, taking some pictures of the scans and everything. Really, what it comes down to with Breece is I am very optimistic. I almost took Breece there instead of Ramondre, but I think Ramondre is the only running back in that tier we were looking at that I would prefer to Breece. I think that everybody just sort of has like a sour taste in their mouth. Like we had Dobbins last year, Saquon, when he came off of his ACL, he had like a couple 20-point games and then tweaked his ankle, and people still have a sour taste from that. The difference is like J.K. Dobbins and this Javonte Williams ACL are horrific. There's like hip damage and there's a bunch of other stuff. Breece Hall was a very clean ACL tear. It was just the ACL. Everything that I've seen, there's Twitter doctors out there that aren't even affiliated with the Jets. Everything I've seen from Jets Twitter and Jets Instagram, it seems like he is very much on pace to be like there in week 1. I think that he should be literally himself by week 3, 4.
Wow.
I really am not worried about it at all. I think 3rd round Breece Hall is an amazing value. Like I think in a vacuum, I would probably have him as like an early 2nd, to be honest with you. I don't see it being a massive problem. Now, I think where the problem would be is if the Jets, drafting Izzy is kind of their signal of like, hey, we're not sure that we want to give this guy a full 20+ touch workload ever. But he just might catch enough passes and be efficient enough to the point where that's not really that important.
And I mean, Izzy was a 5th round pick too, so it's not like they're taking Zach Charbonnet in the 2nd.
Yeah, and I don't buy. I've heard people say like there was Gibbs reports that they were going to take Gibbs, and it's like, oh my god, like what does that mean for Breece? And it's like, to me, I don't agree with this philosophy, but I think what it really was to them is that they just saw Jahmyr Gibbs as like the best receiving option on the board, and that would have been nice with Aaron Rodgers. You can play him out of the slot, you can play him out wide, you can use him everywhere, take pressure off of Breece as he's coming back. But yeah, I think Breece, like honestly. The ACL, it's not like people are really comparing it to even like Javonte right now. People think, it's going to be a long ramp up. I really think he'll be back to his normal self very quickly. He's also like one of the youngest running backs in the league, regardless of draft class and everything. I think he's like just turned 21. So probably better chance of sort of bouncing back from that.
Cool. I'll give you my takes on that in a second here once we get this pick through. What do you want to do here?
I'm
We got
open to Burrow, but you said you don't necessarily have to really with the 2 wide receivers.
Well, I mean, his ADP is falling to align with the wideouts. I think what I meant is like I'm never taking him in the third. I'm always trying to get him in the fourth there. Najee also a faller. We know he's not.
I'm down to
playing the
take
Bengals.
Najee and see if Burrow comes back to us. If you're down for that,
Let's do that because no one should take Burrow. And if you like Najee, let's do it. And he's a guy I'm not taking a lot of personally, but yeah, Breece for me, a guy I took a lot last year, like a lot, because he was cheap. He kept getting cheaper. It didn't make sense to me. I thought he was clearly like, the RB1 there. I was not afraid of Michael Carter and co. And I was a smash until he got hurt, is what it is.
Yeah.
But this year, he is a guy who I just view a lot of these running backs similar. The Ramondre, I like a little bit more than Breece because he's not hurt. Jacobs, I don't have too many questions about. Pollard, I have no questions about. Derrick Henry is old, but
how is he going to take Burrow? He already has Hurts.
He's anytime you can ruin your team, you simply miss.
Right.
How about we could go elite tight end, we could go Judy, we could go Terry.
Let's go Judy.
Let's go Judy. All right.
Yeah.
He's a guy I don't get a lot of either, so I'm happy to get a mix. So we got a nice balanced start here. But yeah, Breece this year is a guy who I, in pre-draft best ball, it just didn't make sense to me why he was ranked ahead of these guys who, at the time we didn't have the questions about. And I don't pretend to be as plugged in on Breece specifically, but it's just like coming off injury. I got burned by that a little bit. Yeah, that's not really relevant because it is case by case. And I don't know. I don't know exactly how to read into it, but I'm hearing from you. Nothing to worry about. Full go early. How about to the RB2, the RB3 question? Jonathan showed a lot last year, but yet they drafted this Izzy guy in the 5th who a lot of people comp to like Raheem Mostert, which home run hitter basically. Kind of similar. Breece is a home run hitter too, So what's your take? Is the rookie the 2 in your eyes? That's how the market's treating it. Jonathan goes undrafted. Michael Carter barely drafted, but he's drafted ahead of Jonathan.
I gotta double check the contract, man, but I think Michael Carter is a legit cut candidate, man.
I agree. I know he like sucks. Like he catches passes, but
he's bad. He's bad, dude. They could save like just under $1 million. The dead cap would be like $400K. Like they could cut this guy no problem at all. To me, it's just like. And I think the Izzy thing is honestly, it probably is more a Michael Carter thing, but it's like, man, like Michael Carter had a good year 1. Breece goes down and it's perfectly set up for him on a silver platter, and he does nothing. He's like splitting work with Ty Johnson. They trade for James Robinson over him.
Forgot about Ty.
And then Zonovan Knight is getting touches over Michael Carter. Like to me, Michael Carter is very easily the 4 there. And then I think it's probably in terms of like my guess for week 1. If Michael Carter makes the roster, which again, I don't think he's a lock for the 53. If he makes the roster, he's probably their pass protection guy. I think that he's probably their best, like sort of like satellite back until Breece comes back. But that's really the only role I could see. I could even see like the minute that Breece comes off IR, they're pushing Carter out. And I think you kind of get like a 1-2 punch.
We have to acknowledge that Aaron Rodgers, kind of a weirdo allegedly, and apparently. Like if you won't go along with his conspiracy theories or whatever, he'll just choose favorites, which I don't know how you feel as like a fan. Like, are you just like, I'm not going to think about that too much? Or are you just like, you know what? It's the Aaron Rodgers effect. Sign me up for it. Or you just like full like, no, I'm going for bat for him. There's a reason he chooses these guys. How are you reading into this whole like bringing in Randall Cobb, bringing in Alan Lazard, bringing, like, what's happening with Corey Davis? There's a lot to talk about with Rodgers. Not everyone goes in a darkness retreat. And then, like, how is Randall Cobb in the league? Like, what's going on?
we're in the honeymoon phase right now with Rodgers. So like
Mm-hmm.
until Randall Cobb is
And
like in
before
over
you guys are
Garrett
down
Wilson
40
with like a
against
minute
Buffalo week
left.
one.
Yeah, it's like yeah. 10 minutes ago versus Buffalo in week 1, and it's a Randall Cobb target on like 3rd and 8 with Garrett Wilson wide open. Then we're gonna have some choice words. But for now, I like again, this is loser talk because it's just like I'm a Jets fan at this point, but it's like I'm just glad he's here. I'm just glad he is here. I'm glad the deal is done. I'm glad he's in New York. I will
I would
say
feel the same way.
a huge plus is that he's not like going Hollywood. He's out there in like non-mandatory training camp right now, like throwing with Garrett Wilson and all of them. He's out there at the facility every day, putting work in, and it's like literally May. None of this is mandatory. So he's putting the work in. But yeah, it is very weird. Corey Davis is another one that's very weird that he's even still on the roster.
He's like kind of good, and like,
Yeah,
how can we judge anyone with Zach Wilson?
I
You
agree.
know,
I agree. Corey Davis is very good. In terms of like his role as a real life player.
let's make a pick real quick. Tony does play the Bengals week 17, so we could get some correlation. So does Pacheco. There's other running backs and wideouts and tight ends I like more than these players individually for ignoring. Who's your guy here?
I'd like Kadarius Toney and then pray that Waller gets back to us.
Okay. Usually we don't say who we want on this channel because you're going to get a guy like Foosball who's just going to take it for the laughs. But yeah, no, and something I'll give Rodgers credit to is because I feel Tom Brady ran from the AFC East because like Josh Allen was coming. And he went to like it. Yes, he went to a very good team in the Bucks at the time, but he also went to a terrible division. That is not what Aaron Rodgers is doing. Aaron Rodgers went to the AFC. The AFC is way harder than the NFC. And yes, it doesn't matter for winning the Super Bowl because it's just kind of like, is my team good enough to win the Super Bowl? Yes or no. But as far as like getting to the Super Bowl, he's got to deal with the Dolphins and Bills in his own division. He's got to deal with the Chiefs and Bengals. The Ravens could be rejuvenated with the healthy Lamar. There's a lot of like legit teams in the AFC. The Jaguars are coming. In the NFC, it's like, ooh,
Foosball got us again.
Yeah, I mean,
Foosball's
just here for the lulz. Who I like Hollywood a lot. I'm a Gabe Davis guy.
I would love to get Gabe Davis here, man.
I like.
I would love
hey,
it.
let's go with Gabe. You don't got to twist my
arm. I'm a Gabe Davis guy. As like he is as cheap as he's been. I drafted him for the maybe not the first time. I drafted him in Dynasty like yesterday in like the 12th round, man. Like this is like I would get it if they drafted Quentin Johnson or something, but he's going to be out there 2 wide receiver sets, right? Gabe Davis, big play guy. He'll make an impact on your lineup when he scores touchdowns and does his thing. Like I don't get what there isn't to like.
Yeah, I like Gabe a lot. I don't think he's totally out of the water with Hopkins. Like we don't know what's going on there.
True.
Hopkins could be cut and added to a team. He could be traded midseason. And I don't know, like this Justin Shorter guy the Bills drafted probably is just insurance for if Gabe walks next year because he has too good of a year. But he was like a 5-star recruit, he was like the number 1 ranked wideout going into college.
I think he's a Jersey boy too.
Had a weird college year. Yeah, I think he is, with Anthony Amico coached against him in high school. I saw on Twitter and said that guy was a monster. But I don't know. Like, is it going to be shocking if it clicks for this Shorter guy in the NFL? Not really. So Gabe, but Gabe is just the guy who's alive for like 10 touchdowns and in half-point PPR. That's the nuts.
This is a weird question. Do you like Shane Gillis at all? He's a comedian from Philly.
I don't know who he is. So
he's boys with Gabe Davis. You're asking that question. What's up?
I said what? Cue me in why you were asking that question.
He's boys with Gabe Davis. Like Gabe Davis has like he'll do comedy shows in Buffalo, and like Gabe Davis will come out with like him and like Spencer Brown, and like all the Bills will come watch him. And he has like a story of like he went down there. He's talked about it before, where he like went down there and they all went to like a Dave & Buster's. Like Josh Allen like rented out a Dave & Buster's, and he just said it was hilarious, just like sitting there. Bunch of Bills players, and it's like him and like 3 comedians just looking like a bunch of idiots at a Dave & Buster's. Like one of them got like a VR goggles on, like playing one of those lightsaber games. So yeah, he has like funny Gabe Davis stories that he'll share sometimes. I figured Bills fans would probably find that interesting.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. I watch out Adam Schefter because we got inside scoop Ron here. Uh, keying us all the info. Gabe Davis is a UFC or UCF legend. That is right. Man, that's funny. Josh Allen also recently in the tabloids because apparently he broke up with his girlfriend. So we've had a rumor mill going on with apparently he got a bartender pregnant or something, and
No,
I
say it isn't
and then
so.
I don't know. So yeah, so if you guys came for a little TMZ, we got that covered as well. Apparently, the ex girlfriend was like throwing things in the house before the Bills Bengals playoff game. You can't have that. You know, I'm sure Brandon
Yeah.
Bean was like, Josh, get a new one.
And I loved him. I loved him at the combine. Like he just like doesn't even have like a haircut. Just like looks like an idiot. And I saw a picture of him the other day, like all swagged out and like this collar, like buttons, like unbuttoned, dripped up, like good haircut and everything. It's like your guy's going Hollywood a little bit here.
Yeah, he had the mullet going. He's a funny
I'll
guy.
say I was about to say this on Sauce earlier too, man. And this is bad because this is just me being a delusional fan, and I love Sauce. But this guy is doing a million side quests right now. Like he's going to these games with Aaron Rodgers. He has a GTA roleplay server that he streams like every night on Twitch, dude. It's insane. Like he is a guy who lives a million lives. So and it's just like I hate this. It's a different NFL right now. But Revis wasn't doing all this, man. Just lock in, please.
Well, I mean, we don't even hear from Revis. Like
Oh, dude,
that's
Revis was silent. There was nothing.
yeah, but we don't hear from him now. You know, like it's not,
Yeah.
he's not even like going the Steve Smith route. It's just like
No.
he's living his own life. What's up, Trey? All right, Ron. What are we doing here?
Man.
I'm happy we got 5 wideouts because it's purple, green, and blue staring us.
Let's take what do you think about Jameson Williams maybe though? Maybe one more wideout.
I like me some JMO. I like him
Let's
a lot,
do J-Mo.
especially with this
puppy.
team. I think he is a guy. I mean, we have the strength at wideout to support him. He's a guy who I think is very like, if he had played, he's probably getting priced similar to like Chris Olave and Christian Watson. Like this is the guy who can have 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdown games,
And like 4 catches too.
Yeah, exactly. So I am all, not great. He got suspended, but he got suspended because he was spending time at the facility. if he was at home, he would not have been suspended. So like,
very true.
That's a little bit of like the only reason he got suspended is because he's spending so much fucking time at the Lions facility. So it's like, okay, yeah, you were doing dumb stuff. You didn't know the whatever. You're probably betting like $10 on March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it's because you were spending so much time at the Lions facility in the offseason.
What do you think about these? Like, what do you think about like Kamara? Because I keep drafting him and hope that he just beats the case.
I'm afraid. I don't really see like.
Do you like any of the running backs here?
I like Charbonnet quite a bit.
I'd be cool with Charbonnet.
I'd be okay with cool. some Evan Ingram. I'd be okay with some Daniel Jones.
Let's do Sharb.
Okay. And with Kamara, Kamara, it's just like that team is very complicated for who's going to get rushing touchdowns, which we need rushing touchdowns, right? So you got Taysom, you got Kendre Miller, you got Jamal Williams, who is like the literal vulture, right? Like this is like Mike Tolbert from the league.
Yeah.
You got those guys all complicating it. And then you got Foster Moreau now in the mix, Juwan Johnson in the mix, Michael Thomas, if healthy, is like probably going to get his. You got Chris Olave getting his. You got Rashid Shaheed getting his. You got, so you just got so many mouths to feed where like even if we get Kamara, who has to beat this case, and I don't know, like I just don't like the writing on the wall for Kamara, and I just don't think, I don't know, how old is my man now?
I think he'd be younger than you'd think.
He's 27. I did draft him in Dynasty last year. I only have one Dynasty best ball, so he is young.
I'm actually in that
Ish.
league with you. I just have like a
Oh,
weird name on Sleeper.
are you? My draft is awful. That's my only Dynasty league. But I don't know. I just like the signs from the team, plus how complicated who's going to get the touchdowns, plus the legal case. I've not been drafting a lot of him, but that could be a leak. Like
how cheap does he have to get for you to be like, you know what, like I'll do it? Because like he might just only get cheaper, man.
Well, but that's the thing. I think he shouldn't, because it's like I like all of these running backs until we get to like Antonio Gibson plus, where it's like, why can't Gibson score 10 touchdowns? Why can't Damian Harris score 10 touchdowns? Why can't P. Ryan just be the RB1 and maybe Javonte doesn't come back? Like, he's got a real injury to worry about. Why can't Rashad Penny? Why can't Devin Achane? So it's like,
yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of guys to like. That doesn't really matter for best ball purposes. And it's like, he's got rushing touchdowns of 2 and 4 the past 2 years off of like a bunch of carries. The ultimate vulture is there, plus Taysom, who like kind of is the ultimate vulture too, plus Kendra Miller. So I don't know, man. And like how I approached best ball early last year is that I leaned into a lot of uncertainty with the idea that it's like, if these players come back or whatever, I'm building super teams no one else can. So that meant I was drafting like Will Fuller. I was drafting Odell Beckham. And what ended up happening, those players ended up being 0. So a large part of this could just be me overcorrecting for those like random cases. But to me, it's like there's 2 mentalities you should have. Mentality 1 is like, I'm not going to lean into unnecessary risk because I'm going to get ADP value anyways. And having dead roster spots really kills you in best ball come playoffs. So like, I'm just trying to get healthy full 18 / like, players like, so I don't take a lot of Kamara. I don't take a lot of Joe Mixon. I don't take a lot of Dalvin Cook. I'm not trying to like catch the running backs of yesteryear as like a falling sword.
Yeah.
And the other mentality is, you know what? I'm leaning into all the uncertainty. These guys were round 1 picks last year. If they are back or healthy or whatever, they're smashes. And it's like, yeah, they are, but like they're like 1,000 yards, 6 to 8 touchdowns on a smash. They're not like a piece you have to have probably. So I don't know. Do you have a lean on the Kamara? Is it just kind of like shocked that he's so cheap? Or
it's so tough with Kamara. I was much more interested before they drafted Kendra Miller and then before they signed Jamal Williams. But I agree, like the writing's on the wall at this point. The only thing that he has is like monster receiving upside, but it's tough. Do you want to go? You want to go Rodgers here?
Should we get your guy and just see if we can work it out?
Yeah, we could maybe
Let's
get like Corey Davis. Like we got a lot of options.
We got some chemtrails brewing here. I like the Rodgers pick. He's a guy too who it's like, I don't know. Is it going to be shocking if he was the Rodgers last year? No. Is it going to be shocking if he was the Rodgers from the MVP years? Also no. I think
people forget right before the MVP season, like he was not good. Right before like the first one, like I think before 2020, like he wasn't getting drafted very highly. And I don't see like a massive difference between like I think he has more upside than a guy like Kirk Cousins who goes like 2 to 3 rounds ahead of him, Like I don't see a massive difference between him and kind of those other sort of like Goffs and Geno Smiths and stuff. So
no, there isn't. There isn't a big difference in those guys. He's an easy guy to backstack with. There are pieces. I won't even give the dude who's just trolling with his picks.
We almost had Lazard.
I won't even mention that because some people get their jollies off in that way. We are live for a Jets Bills Week 17 potential. I think Goff makes sense with us having Jameson Williams. Russell would be a stack. I kind of like Dalton Schultz as a tight end. As volume guy there.
Let's go Russ. Let's go Russ.
Like
we got two guys destined for bounce backs here.
I think I would always go Goff over Russ, but I'm okay with it. Let's do it. Let's ride. I don't know. It's just like Goff to me is Now there is a little uncertainty with Goff where they took that rookie. Help me out, the Hendon Hooker,
And then Hooker.
and so like I don't know. There is a little bit of chance Hendon Hooker's playing at the end of the season, but same with Russ, dude. We don't like. It's not going to be shocking if the dude who balled out for the Raiders last year down the stretch and is now on the Broncos is like getting run there. And but I don't know. With this having Judy, I think the Russ pick makes sense. I'm just very confident the Lions are going to be around a top 10 scoring offense. I don't feel that way about the Broncos, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I do like Sean Payton, though. I like Sean Payton coming in. Russell
but like
Wilson,
maybe
it's so
Sean's like,
tough.
I can't fix Russ. Like what if he is like, oh no, this is let's ride him out of town. Um, so I don't know. I don't take Russ a lot. I'm open to changing that. I will mix him in for stacks. Um, but I like our team so far. For anyone that missed it, we got 2, 3, 6 brewing. No tight ends. We'll figure that out late. We could either stop at 2 or go 3 QB.
That's what I was gonna
With this
ask.
team.
Like, if you're taking like what we just took one like 9th, 10th round quarterbacks somewhere around there, or yeah, 9th, 10th round. Are you stopping there? I feel like I got burned so much last year on quarterback scoring. Like, I think one of my biggest issues is I didn't lean into the elite quarterbacks, and I would take like Dak and Trey Lance, and or Dak and Russell Wilson, and just kind of like be like, okay, those two quarterbacks are fine. But it's like if I added a third quarterback, those teams probably are dead anyways. Um,
Yeah, so it's just like but you hit on the wrong players, right? If your 2 was like Goff and Geno, you were fine. If your
yeah.
2 was Tua and Justin Fields, you were fine, right? So like
Mhm.
with this team, it's going usually the last pick in a draft on underdog is like if you build your team balanced enough, it's like this could be any position. Now there are some drafts I build where it's like, no, this has to be a running back, or no, this has to be wide out. Like I'm just too weak there. But a lot of times I build balanced enough where I'm like, it could be a third tight end, or it could be a sixth running back, or it could be a ninth wide out, or it could be a third quarterback. And that's just a spot I'll mix. Sometimes I'll do
Mhm.
this, sometimes I'll do that. And there are some quarterbacks to like with upside. There's a player at almost every position right now to like with some upside later in the drafts. So it's something I mix. I think Rodgers and Wilson is fine enough where if Ramondre smashes and Najee and Zach Charbonnet gets in there and like Chase and Higgins are going off and like if we've hit on our other picks, the quarterbacks are probably fine enough. Russ does give me some pause. Was just like I'm really just not confident he's getting the full 17 games. Uh,
Really?
yeah, because Sean
I feel like
Payton's
his
not been
contract, he might
with his
like he might
contract,
just have to. He might
but he's
like
he's not been committal. And Stidham is there, is the guy I was trying to think of as the QB2. And Stidham, like,
I'd be shocked if Stidham was good, to be honest.
Stidham balled for the Raiders down the stretch, though. Like, at least, like, for like, he gave, like, Adams to, like a 40-point game or something. Like, he was, like, he's not Jimmy G dink and dunk, right?
Fair.
He was, like, slinging it down. So, I don't know, man. I really don't know how to think about the Russ guy. I would be pretty shocked if he is like, I don't know, a top 10 quarterback, and there's downside enough where he doesn't play. Yeah, the Broncos have some weapons, but I don't know. Like, they're probably the worst team in their own division, right? Like, even
Yeah.
after the
You're probably gonna have
Raiders,
to pass a ton though. I mean, you're gonna be behind a little bit. Like
we do
it's
need a
just like
pass.
Russell Wilson. We could
Are
go
you cool with
Schultz here.
Schultz here? I
I'm
like
down.
Schultz a lot here.
Yeah,
I
I'm cool
mean,
with
this is
that.
this is 20 picks past ADP. This is probably the pass catcher one on the Texans. If it's
I'll
not
never
Nico
say no
Collins,
to somebody like what's that, like 16 picks past ADP we got him.
no, yeah, that's a great value. And like to go from Schultz to the next guy being like Chig is like, okay, maybe Chig has more like 10 touchdown seasons in him, but uh I like Nico. I like setting up a Texan stack. I like Greg Dulcich.
I'm down for Dolchich. Get a nice little Russell Wilson counterpart.
Let's go. Let's ride, Russ. Let's ride. I mean, Russ is just so fucking
This
cool.
is what I'll say you on with Russell Wilson is he's always crushed with super low volume. So he's also like Aaron Rodgers in the way that I'm looking right now, like the active touchdown percent leaders, which like is decently sticky in terms of just like pass attempts to touchdowns. You have Mahomes, then it's Rodgers, then it's Lamar Jackson, then it's Russ in terms of like career, and then it's Deshaun Watson. So even if he's not like super, he has a ton of volume. I do think the efficiency can bounce back because efficiency doesn't stay super stable year to year, but over like a massive sample, it kind of does. So I think that there's room to bounce back in terms of like touchdowns to interceptions. And it did feel like he kind of got his mojo back a little bit towards down the stretch. Like I know Judy ripped off a bunch of really nice games down the stretch. Russell Wilson, he was kind of doing well against the Chiefs like in the last 5 weeks until he got
he had
hurt
some
on like a
games.
goal line scramble. So I just think he's not old enough yet to the point where I'd be like, man, this guy's washed. Like it almost does give me vibes. I'm not saying that Russ is going to win MVP, but that year before, Rodgers kind of like rejuvenated things. Like it just wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if he came out here, and threw 30 plus touchdowns. Like I know that that's crazy to say, but it wouldn't shock me because I don't think it would take a ton of attempts.
Well, here's the thing to me is I don't really disagree with you there, but I will say that we have to look at the whole NFL, right? Because Geno and Goff threw for 30 touchdowns last year. So like if a Russ ceiling season is 30 touchdowns, it's like congrats, you got quarterback 12, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention like back when Russ was like a fantasy great piece. It was like he was competing against Matt Ryan's and Ben Roethlisberger's, like Phillip Rivers, like guys who were not running. The new guys coming into the league have to be accounted for too. So it's like maybe Anthony Richardson's down in the league. You got Justin Fields down in the league. You got Tua down in the league. You got like Daniel Jones who's gonna run. You got you got Matt Stafford who's like probably the same as Russ if he's healthy. And it's also hard to sort out like the pass catching order in Denver because it's like Tim Patrick is always rumored to be the one. Cortland Sutton's still there. They drafted a guy in the second round. Mims, Jerry Jeudy's still there. Dulcich is there. Who knows the running back order? So
I think Jeudy might crush, but that's the only one I feel strongly about, to be honest.
And he's a guy I personally don't feel great about like the other dudes in his range. And
that range I struggle with.
Maybe I'm wrong on that. Very open to being wrong on that. But like pretty ideal situation when like they were like ping ponging in and out of the lineup last year. Let's make our pick real quick here. I like Chase Brown as a running back. I'm cool with either of these tight ends. We want to go 3.
Let's go.
I like Tank Bigsby.
Let's go Tank. I actually love Tank myself.
All right. Tank Bigsby, a great pick here. 3rd round draft capital. Not really clear why he's so cheap. And the other thing with Russ is like we have to acknowledge that he was let down so bad by Nathaniel Hackett that it's like hard to assess. Like they from like all, I don't pretend to be an NFL savant, but like from everything I've heard, it was like bad coaches in the NFL try to fit a round hole in a square peg or whatever that saying is. Like he wasn't doing the things Russ is good at, which he should have a chance this year. But I see like small wins for Russ. I don't see big wins occurring.
Yeah, I see what you're saying because there's not a world where he's like a top 4 round pick in 2024.
It just can't happen just because of what the other guys do.
Do we have any interest in Zeke? I mean, I don't really love it.
But I would like. I feel good about these 3 tight ends quite a bit. If you feel good about Zeke, let's fucking do it.
Let's go Taysom Hill. I'm glad to hear that you like Taysom Hill. Because I always think that I'm outsmarting myself when I pick Taysom Hill,
Well, here's the thing. Tight end 5 last year after the big 4, Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, and Hawkinson, has one of the highest individual week ceilings in the whole market. Why?
Yeah.
Because the dude can play quarterback, right? And run the bar. and run the ball. I believe Dennis Allen came out and was asked, it was like months ago, so people don't talk about it, but I believe he was asked about Taysom, and he said that why would we not use him more and put him in position? He is old. He's like 31. But anytime you have a tight end who could play quarterback and also gets running back snaps, especially as like a third one, his ceiling is just so fucking massive.
Yeah.
And if it lands week 17, he could win you the contest. So I don't like that he has tight end eligibility. I don't really know how to read into Foster Moreau signing there, who, for those who don't know, Foster Moreau has Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, but I think got a good and like was not going to play this year. But then I think he got a good diagnosis and is going to play this year. So now you got Juwan Johnson, caught 7 touchdowns last year. You have Taysom there. You have all these running backs. You have these wideouts. You have two tight ends. So I don't know how to play it. I just take different pieces of the Saints. Why do you like
I
Taysom?
almost, now that you kind of say that, like I almost like Taysom Hill because it feels like his points are skewed towards the end of the season. Like I don't know that he gets like tapped in or called on unless there's some injuries. And like NFL, just like injuries happen where, whether it's Carr who goes down or Jamal Williams, like it almost feels like he's more of a utility piece that fills in, So I do feel like he almost skews towards the end where, things could, bumps and bruises happen and whatever. And then all of a sudden, he's like getting snaps at running back and he's filling in at tight end. So yeah, it is just the weekly ceiling thing, and I do wonder to myself sometimes, like, man, like, is this just like a dumb pick, Because I'm just waiting for the time where okay, they have Derek Carr now, they have Jameis Winston now, if Carr goes down, do they just roll with Jameis Winston, and not even Taysom Hill, and the days of him getting dropbacks or anything there are over. But we could see a world where maybe he even just like mixes in with Jameis Winston. There's like a Taysom Hill package, like there was a Tim Tebow package with the Jets a while back. So yeah, there's a bunch of ways for it to happen. I just wonder when does it run out? When do we look up and it's like, okay, he started 0 games at quarterback this year, maybe had one singular spike week in like week 7, and was a pretty dead tight end.
That's
but
pretty
like
much
15,
what he was last year.
Yeah.
Like because he didn't get quarterback. I don't think Hill is I think the dream of Hill being the quarterback is like not occurring. What I think more so the play with Hill is it's the goal line packages. It's the 60-yard runs he sometimes can just like pull off. It's a little bit of quarterback. Like maybe he'll, I don't know, short yardage quarterback, stuff like that. But I don't know. It's just like I could not imagine having 8% of him. But like, how bad would you feel if he does get to play quarterback and you just like leveled yourself and you're like, you didn't take the one dude who has the highest upside at the highest variance position because you don't like it. Because I hear this a lot. People are like, he shouldn't have tight end eligibility. And it's like, okay, play the fucking game though.
But he
because
does.
he does.
Yeah.
He does, right? So like you can live in some fantasy land where you discuss what the rules should be, or you can realize what the rules are. And the dude is cheaper than ever. I mean, his floor is 0, right? Like his floor is he's cut. He is old. He is like 31, I think. Let's see here. 32. And he'll be 33 in August. So I don't understand how the guy it like keeps going, but like obviously he doesn't have that much usage on him. And I like, how do you feel about the addition of Foster Moreau? Like that can't be great for.
It's not great, but I don't mind. Like I don't mind. I don't know a lighter way to put it. I don't mind betting against somebody who's like dealing with like cancer and all that. And they also did trade away Adam Troutman, the previous second string.
Real quick, let's pause you. Yeah,
I got nothing.
Stroud is a stack if we do want to go third quarterback. I kind of like that pick.
Let's go Stroud. I like that as well. Why not?
Yeah, but it's like a pretty big drop off, like Stroud to Brock Purdy. And I think Stroud has a little bit more upside than people realize.
Cheap stacking options too.
Super cheap. I mean, and we are stacked up with Schultz. It makes sense to correlate your quarterback and tight end. They're just positions that correlate well naturally. He works well with the Tank Bigsby pick, maybe. He could be playing each other week 17. That would be a run back of BBM2 as well. which we're getting a lot of run backs of BBM2. Chiefs, Bengals, Packers, Vikings, Week 17. I think
That's what I was
it's
gonna ask.
clearly
What
just
are you
like running
thinking?
back and wide receiver to close it out for us here. I'm
I
cool
kind
with
of like.
Taekwon.
What do you
How do
think
you feel
about?
about it?
What do you think about? What do you think about Gus Bus down there?
You want
Right
to go
there.
Gus?
Yeah, let's
I'm
go
fine with.
Gus.
I'm fine with anyone. Gus and be done at running back, and then we take a wide out in the 18th.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. He's not a guy I've been taking a lot of because it's Gus. We're never getting the like Deontay Foreman pick from last year, where Deontay Foreman was like, an RB1 for weeks, starting guy. Even if J.K. Dobbins goes down, Gus is like a 10 to 12 carry guy, right? So yes, he can have spike weeks, but it's like a different kind of bet than Jerome Ford, which to me, like Jerome Ford is like, I don't know. I just feel like without just not playing aside Lamar, but I really want to bet on the Ravens offense. So I don't know. I said a lot to do about nothing there.
Yeah, I think I think the touchdown upside is like I think he's someone that can give you like I think Gus Edwards, if Dobbins was to come down, would almost give you this is assuming, and I'm with you. I'm trying to bet the Ravens to me feel like the Eagles last year all over again, where everyone's just penciling them in for low pass attempts, but it's like everything they're doing is telling us that they want to pass the ball. They bring in Todd Monken, they bring in Odell Beckham, they re-sign Lamar, they draft a wide receiver in the first round, and we want
I'm
to
with
pencil
you.
them in for bottom 5 dropbacks still. Like I don't get it a ton. So I do think, if this offense gets elevated and Lamar has like some sort of MVP type season, if Gus Edwards like kind of ended up being like the Mark Ingram of this offense, and Mark Ingram was like kind of pretty sweet, and like what was that, maybe like 2020, 2019, it wouldn't shock me. I don't know. I mean, they do rotate running backs, but I think he'd push for a little bit. I think he'd push for a little more touches there. He's always been very efficient. Like he almost kind of reminds me of like kind of a shitty version of Damian Harris, just like like Ronald Jones type, just between the tackles, grinder, efficient in that role. So I don't hate it.
And he was coming off injury last year too, right?
Yeah, he was dealing with
He
weird stuff.
he is 29 this year too, so it's like, would it be shocking for Gus to be cut? No. Like undrafted free agents come out of nowhere all the time on teams. This was Jalen Warren last year. Like this happened. This is Raheem Mostert some years. This was Jeff Wilson some years. These were undrafted free agents who came out of nowhere. And all you can do is draft with the info you have right now. I wouldn't recommend drafting any undrafted free agents. There are some that are promising, like the Sean Tucker who ended up on the Bucks. But
That's pretty much it for me.
yeah,
That's the
and
only
even
name.
that, it's just like
Yeah.
that's just I'm going to let it play out in August because you're not getting like. I mean, we did see probably the biggest hit was James Robinson.
Pacheco got steamed up. I mean, he wasn't a UDFA, but like
He was a seventh round. But the rookie year of James Robinson, he was the guy who I think he was an undrafted free agent. But he was the guy who smashed. So with this, I have an idea of who I would like to draft for our last pick, but we'll save it because we're not amateur streamers here. Is it correct that I don't remember your answer? Did you say Izzy is your RB2 for the Jets?
I would say my guess would be him and
favorite?
Zonovan Knight are kind of just like 1-2 punch. I would probably, like, if we're talking week 1 favorite to have the most touches in the backfield, my gun to my head would be Zonovan Knight. But I think it's
With
very
Izzy
close.
mixing in for like home run stuff.
Yeah, he'd probably be more
That
efficient.
makes sense.
I think he'd probably be more efficient, probably more of the outside zone stuff. Where Zonovan Knight's probably going to be more of your between the tackles banger. But it's tough. I'm not sure either of them are really going to catch a ton of passes. So yeah, I'd probably rather just bet on the efficiency of Eben Okanda. And then you also just have, the black box aspect of just a rookie. And he could, just have been a massive value. He should have never been a 5th rounder, and could just be sick. So we'll see.
Yeah, he's not a guy I take a lot of. But I do mix it. Like, him in the 18th round seems like a steal.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, there's a reason Chase Brown goes in the 14th because potentially Joe Mixon is cut, but still.
Still re-injury risk for Breece, even though everything that I sort of said earlier.
How do we feel about Corey Davis for our last pick here?
Oh, I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
we got to, right? We got
If
to
he
get
stays
Jet
on
on.
the roster, they will use him. If they don't cut him, and I don't see the reason to cut him at this point. It's not like they're trying to sign anybody. He will find his way onto the field. I do believe that.
I mean,
I
this is a
gotta believe he gets the nod
former.
over McCole. I have to.
Yeah, like, I mean, McCole is he's like Deontay Hardy. He's a guy who could pop up for 100-yard, 2 touchdown game. But Corey Davis is like, who's going to have way more 1,200-yard, 8-touchdown seasons if for some reason he's thrust into the role? That's Corey Davis, the ex. Like, where'd he go in
And
that
they
real
love that he
draft?
run blocks in the NFL draft. Like top 5 pick out of like
Yeah, he's a
Western
top 5 pick.
Michigan.
He's only 28. He played with Zach Wilson and Mike White. How could you even like assess this guy?
And Mariota before he was like
And Mariota. So
when he
yeah,
wasn't
like,
even good. You know.
we don't. All right, so let's name this Ron Stewart, and then Jets up. We'll name that for you. Ron, could you review the team for the people out there? Do you want to see it more like this, or draft board wise? What works best for you?
Let's see. Let me see the team just from the roster standpoint here.
Okay, we'll
But
start with
yeah,
quarterback.
say it's a solid squad here. This isn't probably what me or you would either really like in a perfect world. I don't know that we're aiming for a 3-5-7-3 build, but I think it is a fun way to kind of just, get a little bit different here. But I do like the quarterbacks because I think that there's a lot of I don't know that any of these guys, again, like I'm trying to picture like the big hits. Like I don't know that any of these guys are going like elite quarterback tier next year. But Stroud,
Rodgers could have a great year.
yeah, I agree. He could have, 40 plus touchdowns, go crazy. I love the CJ Stroud pick because I almost like CJ Stroud's not even a guy that I love in Dynasty, but Stroud is someone where if he came in and was instantly a Herbert Burrow, accurate assassin from the pocket and, gave you like 25 plus touchdowns, it really wouldn't shock me. Russell Wilson, a guy I said, per percent or per throw basis, he's going to be efficient. So I feel like there's some room for profit there with our 3 quarterbacks. I love Ramondre. I think that he's one of the unicorns in the NFL where he's like 230 pounds and could catch like 80 plus balls. But I do like, we kind of like kept it thin here. Like it's almost like this is almost a modified double hero RB in this running back room where we kind of took like Ramondre and Najee early, stacked in some running backs late, Gus Edwards, nice little, I don't know, like a handcuff on a good offense, but I like that. We could have maybe
Mystery
gone
box.
like 6, but I do love that we kept it thin. And then wide receiver, Chase and T. Can I pick your brain on that for a second? I'm still trying to work through that. You're saying it's in your best interest, or maybe I'm misunderstanding, but you almost say it's a plus to have the 2 wide receivers, but not the quarterback. Or is it just that the quarterback in the stack isn't that important?
The quarterback is the least important part because, for example, the year I won Best Ball Mania 2, Joe Burrow scored 40. Did the other quarterbacks score 0? No. Like I had Josh Allen who scored 30. So that's a 10-point delta. However, I had Joe Burrow's pass catchers with Josh Allen. So I'm still getting the benefit of Joe Burrow's passing yards. I'm just not getting Joe Burrow's points. And it's unlikely you're going to have a quarterback score 40 or 30 points and get like a 20-point gap on the field of quarterbacks where
That makes sense.
Chase and Higgins could be either, in the ideal world, it's like Higgins goes off week 15 and week 16, advances to the finals. No one has Chase. We have Chase. Chase scores a lot of points that week. Higgins does not. And we're separating from the field. With a hurt Joe Burrow would be even better, obviously. But, even if Joe Burrow goes for 40, maybe Aaron Rodgers
got
goes
3
for
shots
20
to match it.
Or Aaron Rodgers goes for 25. So it's like, okay, we're giving up 15 points to the Joe Burrow team, but maybe we're making up with that with the guy that we took at Joe Burrow's pick, which we ended up selecting Najee. Like maybe Najee goes for 30. So we're getting, and that could smash whoever the Joe Burrow's running back is that's competing with our Najee. So yes, you do want to stack your quarterback if possible, but it is the least important part of the stack compared to the pass catchers, right? Because if Chase goes for 50, you're not matching that, right?
Yeah.
You need to have Chase. You almost never need to have the quarterback.
So
Are
you'd
there
almost
some
rather
weeks?
have Chase, like Kadarius Toney than Chase. I mean, it's tough because Burrow is so much a higher ADP. But like, would you say opposite side wide receiver is more important than the quarterback, or at that point it gets kind of evened out by then?
No, I mean, well, we're talking about different cost players. So like,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
obviously much rather have Joe Burrow than Kadarius Toney because both from a season long aspect and the individual week. But like for me, if if I go Chase Higgins at the 1-2, I am never taking Burrow at 3, which some people
yeah,
do. Some people are like, got to get my guy. Why? Because I want to get him at 4, where I feel like I think he's moving that way. B, I feel like I should be able to because no one should take him. And if I don't take him, I don't care because I'm going
yeah,
to be able to stack a quarterback late. We ended up with 3 stacked quarterbacks, and I'm
yeah.
still capturing the Bengals offense, right? So it's like, go ahead, go ahead and take Joe Burrow. There are so many iterations where I don't need him.
And I'm
But,
surprised you like stacking like two wide receivers like that, because I feel like sort of conventional thought would be like they'll never both smash in the same week. But like you brought up the point, like one can get you through week 16, the other can get you through week 17. You're still kind of capturing the entire offense. Like I have thought in the past that it's like even just like with Waddle and Tyreek last year, you take them both and it's like, are they capping each other's upside? Can they both smash from a season long standpoint together? But I think in those types of offenses, they can.
yeah, and that is something I've changed my thinking on because I was like you last year, where it was like, I want AJ Brown. I don't want Devonta Smith as much. I want Tyreek. I don't want Waddle as much. But what we saw was like clearly these are 1A, 1Bs. So when
Yeah.
you have a 1A, 1B where, Chase to me is clearly the 1 and Higgins is clearly the 2, but it's totally fine. Like I'm betting on one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL from a passing yards and touchdown perspective. Both have huge individual weeks. Both can hit the same week, right? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing stopping that from occurring. Or they can ping pong. There's a lot of different things. So like it's not something I do always, but it's totally something I have no problem doing with the wide receiver duos we feel good about. So like
Yeah.
Brown and Smith, I would do it with like Amari Cooper and Kirk. I would do it with Diggs and Gabe Davis. Like it's just betting on good offenses. I don't care that the same team. It can work out from season perspective. It can work out in individual week perspective. Maybe people are less prone to doing it because like that's kind of like classical thinking is like, oh, Chase or Higgins, like gotta choose one to maximize. But because remember, you're not facing 900,000 teams in the finals if you make it there.
Yeah.
You're facing around 450 teams, right? So it's like you don't need to be the nuts. You just
Yeah,
need to
exactly.
be an 85 percentile score. And this is where I think it's helpful to have like some DFS background with that. But like you don't need a 0.01 percentile outcome, from
Yeah.
scoring. You could win with a 70 percentile outcome, especially because in the fantasy playoffs, you're going to see some players super condense for ownership. For
Hmm.
example, for Best Ball Mania 2, this was Mark Andrews and Cooper Kupp. They were both 50% owned. Last year, it was Justin Jefferson. And so when you don't have a Justin Jefferson at 50%, that is so massive for you. You're not
Yeah.
you're only competing with half of the field, right? Um, Anyways, Ron, we said a lot today. Really enjoyed this stream with you. Really enjoyed hearing both your origin story and sharing a little bit what you know about YouTube. You're a young man, but your voice persona comes off as an experienced guy in the space. How about you tell the people where they can find more of your work and anything you have coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. This has been great. Like I honestly I learned a ton. Just like DFS isn't my background at all. Like I've kind of just, defer to guys like you and Pete and all of these guys who are in the streets. Honestly, fun fact as well from my origins is I'm banned on DraftKings. I think when they first came out with DraftKings, like remember like they were pushing in all the commercials. I was in there. I was like 15 using my
Oh,
mom's
you're
name and her
too young.
birthday, and they found me. There was this one week where I actually like cashed like a decent lineup with like was like Giovanni Bernard and like Bilal Powell both went crazy. It must have been like 2017 or 2018. But yeah, you can find me, Ron Stewart, on YouTube, just RonStewart. It should come up. I talk, I'll do like weekly best ball streams, and I'll talk redraft and dynasty, everything fantasy football. You can find me there, Ron Stewart on YouTube.
All right. And the link to Ron's Twitter, where you can find the link to his YouTube, is in the description below, along with a link to my Discord if you want to join that. On my end, just hit the like and subscribe button. I'll be back for another video tomorrow. Really appreciate you coming on, Ron. We'll definitely have you back on the channel here shortly. Peace out, everyone. Have a good day. Drink water. Tell your family you love them. Get out in nature. Work out. Do all the good things.